Hello everyone, welcome to everything you need to know about Cards and Castles Ultimate. Today I'm going to be going through basically everything this game has to offer. I'll go over the gameplay, the deck building, the mechanics, the faction identities, and basically everything you see on this menu. So we are going to start off with the gameplay. So I'm going to get into a match. So if you are going first, you have 3 cards to select from, and you can mulligan them away, and it will add another card to your hand. So let's say I want to get rid of this. I'll start with both of these in my hand, and then I will get a different third card. Now, because I go first, I have 1 gold that I can spend on the cards in my hand. But let's go over what we see in this grid first. So, we got a 5x9 grid, and we can place our units on these first 3 columns. Well, obviously our castles have 20 health, and there are 5 defense squares set up around it. Each map will have different unique obstacles or things you can destroy to gain benefits. For example, on this one, there are these 5 health buildings that you can destroy with an attack, and once you do, you get a free dude. And if you go second, you actually start with 4 cards in your hand that you can mulligan from. And you get this vault, which you can destroy to gain an extra gold on your turn at any time that you want. Each turn, your max gold will increase by 1, which will allow you to get play your higher cost cards. You can play this to, or you can spend your gold to either play units, spells, or buildings, which we'll get to once they are in my hand. Spells can be cast as long as their conditions are met, and when played for units, they can move 2 spaces wherever they want. But to move diagonally, it would take 2 squares. And they cannot attack on their first turn, or on like the first turn that they're summoned. Now, they can always move through friendly units or buildings, but they cannot move through neutral buildings, such as these bear hog cages, or enemy units or buildings. Alright, when units attack, well, they do their damage to something, so there you go. However, when they attack a building, obviously they don't take any damage, because the building doesn't have any attack. But, let's say if this guy was going to attack this Daradon Avenger here, they would both take damage equal to their attack, as they would counterattack. Now, because there is a unit on these defending squares, my Shield Maiden cannot attack the castle, and we would be forced to destroy everything on these defending squares, including enemy buildings, so that we can attack the castle. Buildings cannot move and stay in one spot, unless a card is able to move them, but obviously you can't just have this vault just decide to start walking up. Although that would be bad because you want it back here so it doesn't get destroyed. Now, when a unit is destroyed, they are put in a gravestone. Also, I have a spell here. Overload, give a friendly unit +1 attack and deal 1 damage to all nearby enemies. So I can play this, which will deal 1 damage to both of these enemies, and then I can attack it to destroy it. Now, as they were both killed, they were both placed into these gravestones. These gravestones always spawn in the furthest back line, and you can have 5 gravestones. If there was a unit or a building in the way of where the gravestone was supposed to be, it will find another spot. It might go in front, or it might just go further up or down. You can only have 5 gravestones, but if you decide that you don't want this unit in your gravestone, you can place a unit on top of it, and that will destroy it. Alright, so you cannot destroy gravestones on their back line, but you can attack graves that are in front of their backline, so at least on their second column. And finally, the game ends when you destroy the opponent's castle. Alright, now that we have the general gameplay out of the way, I'll go over deck building. So, each deck consists of a minimum of 30 cards, and a maximum of 40 cards, and you can only use a maximum of 2 copies of each card. When creating a new deck, you can choose 2 of any of these 7 factions, of which these factions include Vikings, Crusaders, Pirates, Warlocks, Ninjas, Druids, and Undead. Some cards are 2 colors and can only be played in a deck that consists of those 2 colors. Also, there is a neutral faction that can be played in any deck that you would like. Also, you can easily customize the deck name or the box art of your deck, while also being able to easily import, export, or delete deck lists. A neat, useful tool that you can use is you are able to see the ratio of the costs of cards in your deck to make sure that you have a good curve to make sure you are playing cards every turn. Finally, you can sort cards by faction up here, sort them by card or by cost. You can sort them by card type. You can sort them by the set. You can search cards in here like that. And you can select or deselect if you would like to see cards you own or not. Moving on to mechanics. So every card has a card type. So our first card we'll be going over is Chaotic Storm. This is both a fire and a lightning spell. So they have no effect on how the cards are played or their effects, but other cards may interact with them in certain ways, like Thor, God of Thunder. He will have your lightning spells cost 2 less and cast twice. So that is the main way of building synergy in a deck. Also, there are cards called Mythics. You can only have 1 copy of each Mythic on the board at the same time. A good example of this is with Zeus. He's a Mythic, so you can only have 1 of him on the board at a time. But he also buffs your other Mythic units by 4. And although there are ways to clone or to make copies of Mythics, which is one of my favorite styles of decks, but you will just have to explore that yourself. There are cards that give you temporary extra gold, like Spoils of War. This will give you 3 gold temporarily that you have to spend on that turn, or else you will lose it at the end of your turn. This is a quick way to get extra gold on a turn. It can be used with cards that make you, or that cast your spells multiple times, so that you can get a lot of extra gold. There are also cards that increase your max gold, such as with Merchant's Favor, which will increase your max gold by 1. So that will give you +1 gold for the rest of the game, which is an incredible way of ramping up to bigger cards. Another way of getting extra money is through treasure, specifically here with Trading Post. Whenever your opponent draws a card, you gain 1 treasure. Treasure carries over between turns, which allows you to afford higher cost cards even faster. Here with Trading Post, you can easily get this out of control and get a ton of treasure to play your big expensive guys. Some cards have this Pay X ability, which allows you to, while it's on the board, pay that amount of money and activate its effect. Here with Tolvar the Relentless, you can pay to give a friendly unit +1 this turn, and it immediately attacks an enemy unit. This is a phenomenal card that allows you to get a lot of extra attacks off each turn just by paying 2, so you can do this as many times as you want, as long as you have the money to pay for it. Some cards will have this little tap ability. I call it tap because I've played Magic the Gathering. I'm not sure what the actual name for it is, but as you use it, you can only activate it the turn after it's summoned, and it is activated in place of that unit attacking, which means it has to choose between attacking or using the ability. So usually that means it can only be activated once per turn. Some units, like Lava Giant, will have a Warcry effect, which activates upon them entering the battlefield. So as soon as he enters the battlefield, he'll deal 2 damage to all other units and castles, which is a good way of field clearing your opponent and getting extra burn damage on their castle. Also, for Last Will abilities, that activates when the card is destroyed. So here with War Cow, when it's destroyed, it will give the nearest friendly unit +1. So it's quite simple, it just happens when it dies. Now, one of the main uses for gravestones is grave call abilities. That basically means that you can activate that effect while it is in a grave. So for Banshee here, while it's in a grave, which means it was killed and it managed to make a gravestone, you can pay 3 to return it from your graveyard to your hand. So this is a great way of getting card advantage and being able to recur this over and over again. Usually, or sometimes, these effects will be expensive as they're just extra value that can be used from it being in your graveyard. I assume you know what healing is, but in terms of healing in this game, in Cards and Castles Ultimate, you are able to heal a unit or building up to its max health. However, if you heal the castle, you will just increase its max health instead. So that means that you can go over 20 just by healing it, instead of needing to add health. There are many cards that will have you select a card. That means it will give you an option of 5 choices that fit the criteria. So here, with Entomb, it will give you 5 units that you can choose one of from your deck that you can send to your graveyard. It is basically a way of not allowing you to specifically choose something, but balances it out where it gives you a choice. Some units will have the flying ability, which allows them to move 1 additional space, and they can pass through enemies. This includes enemy units, buildings, the castle, and the neutral buildings that spawn at the beginning of each game. This can be useful to either avoid enemy units to try and keep yours alive, or to get into the back ranks to destroy your opponent's units that may be providing extra value to them. For the ambush ability, that just allows it to attack on the turn it is summoned. So as soon as it's summoned, Axe Thrower here could attack either a unit that's in its reach, or could attack one of the neutral buildings to get its effect off, to deal 2 damage to 2 random enemies. This is a great way of controlling your opponent, and ambush specifically is usually allowed to deal with enemies that are near your castle. A stronger version of ambush is charge. This allows it to move 1 extra square and attack on the turn it's summoned. So this will give it enough movement where it can reach the castle and attack on the same turn. This effect is extremely strong in aggro decks, as you can get immediate damage on the opponent's castle, and you'll have a unit right next to their castle that can keep attacking it. However, it can't move further on subsequent turns after it's summoned. Only on the first turn is when it can move further. If a unit is immobile, it can't move. When a unit with the Stomp ability walks over an enemy unit or building with health less than or equal to the Stomp value, it will instantly destroy them. However, it does have to step directly onto the unit to destroy it. Or you can just walk over the unit and it will walk to the other side without destroying the unit that it walked over. So here with Gaia, if the unit it walks onto has 10 or less health, it will instantly destroy it, which is a good way of being able to destroy something and then still being able to attack afterwards. A cool type of card in this game is called equipments. So equipments are spells that are played directly onto usually friendly units, and they usually buff their stats. But when that unit dies, the equipment returns to your hand. This is a great way of keeping card advantage and continuously buffing your units. So here with Cloak of Fire, every time it's played on a unit, it will deal 1 damage to the nearest enemy and buff that friendly unit by 2 attack and 1 health. So every time that unit dies, you can then play this again to deal more damage for more value. There is another type of spell cards called response cards. These you set as a trap, sort of, on your turn, and they will activate when their condition is met. So here with Omaewa Moshindaru, when your opponent plays a unit card, it instantly destroys it. So you will play this card on your turn, and they do not see that you spent gold or anything, so your gold will remain the same on their screen. And if they play a unit, it'll instantly kill it. Also, if it is not triggered, it will return to your hand at the start of your turn, and your opponent won't see that either. You can probably guess what countering does to a card, but here with Winds of Abatement, it will counter the next enemy spell card, which basically just means it'll fizzle out. The card will be cancelled out, and it'll just disappear, and it won't do anything. When you stun a unit, that unit will basically just lose their next turn. So whenever Lionel here attacks, he will stun the 2 nearest enemies and gain treasure equal to their attack. Along with this being a really strong card, those 2 stuns will basically turn off 2 enemy units for their next turn. Some cards may have a surge ability. This activates as you play the card and gives you the option to either play the card regularly or add the additional surge cost for a bonus effect. This effect only works when you cast the card. So here with Fire Drake, you can either pay 2 and have a 2/2 flying creature, or you can pay 4 and have a 2/2 flying creature that deals 2 damage to the nearest enemy as well. Some cards may summon a Thunderstorm. They are usually active for about 3 rounds, and cause surge effects and lightning spells to cost 1 less, and will also give all mages and tree folks specifically +1. So this is just a cool, unique gimmick that will buff those types of decks. So with Storms here, when she is played, she will generate a Thunderstorm for 3 rounds. Now if multiple cards generate Thunderstorms for 3 rounds, the rounds won't stack up and it will just go back to 3 rounds. Sometimes cards may shuffle curses into your opponent's deck. These are cards that activate immediately upon being drawn. Currently there are 3 possible curses in the game. There's the Curse of Disrepair, so when they draw it, they will take 2 damage. There's the Curse of Poverty, so when they draw it, they will take 1 damage and lose a gold. And the Curse of Betrayal, which will have them take 1 damage and summon a 2/1 Skeletal Pirate for you. So a card that is great at shuffling curses into your opponent's deck is Salahar Spitefish. So whenever this or another friendly unit dies, shuffle a curse into your opponent's deck. This can get really out of hand with a ton of curses going into your opponent's deck, which is a great way to deal burn damage and lower the health of their castle. Units with stealth will spawn invisible. They cannot be seen by your opponent or targeted by spells of your opponent. However, they will be revealed once they attack, are damaged, or when an enemy walks on top of it. Using area damage or cards that affect the nearest enemy are good ways to get around this, as they will still affect the unit that is stealthed. They do make a sound upon being placed, so listen carefully and you may be able to tell which unit it is. So here with Killer Monkey, it is a great way of getting early game aggro damage, as it'll be invisible and it'll sneak up to the opponent's castle and deal 4 damage and still stay alive to deal more damage. Deflect is a neat ability that will be able to defend the units with Deflect on it. So it will make it so it cannot be affected or cannot be targeted by spells or abilities. It's a great way of protecting them from your opponent, but you cannot target them with buffs or heals or equipment, etc. So make sure that's not part of your game plan that you're going for. A way to get around this is to use mass spells that target everything rather than specifically targeting the unit. So Manticore here, 3 with Deflect, cannot be targeted by specific spells or abilities. When a unit has a shield, it will prevent all of the next damage taken. So that means that once a unit with a shield is hit by an opponent's attack or by a spell, it will use up the shield and the unit will take no damage. So Dwarf Paladin here will spawn with a shield, meaning if they take a big attack, they won't take any damage from that. Regenerate will trigger upon a unit being hit. A unit with Regenerate will always survive the first hit and heal back to full health. Be careful against Death Strike though, which will be able to kill the unit anyways, but we'll get to that in a minute. So specifically with Hydra here, it will if it gets hit, it will get plus 2 at the end of the turn, and it will regenerate, but it can only regenerate once. There are cards that can regain Regenerate, but also take into account that this is healing. So cards that synergize with healing can synergize with that too. Invulnerable is pretty self-explanatory. The unit takes no damage. Usually it's pretty... oh, and it can't be destroyed by destroy effects. It's always usually temporary, as having a unit with this effect on it permanently would be extremely strong. So Miguel here would make all your units invulnerable for the turn, so they could attack into units without taking any counterattack damage. Now onto Death Strike. Simply means whenever it attacks or counterattacks and damages the enemy unit, it will instantly kill it. So this is a great way to remove big creatures. But however, they usually have low stats, so make sure that they aren't destroyed before they can attack. Or give them a form of ambush or charge, which could be useful. If a unit has lifesteal, it will heal your castle every time it deals damage through combat. So that means whenever this guy attacks, he'll do 2 damage and he'll heal your castle for 2 health. This can get out of hand with cards that buff attack, and you can get a lot of healing out of them that can help you live a little bit longer. If a unit has cleave, it will attack all nearby enemy units at once. However, that means they will all also attack him at the same time. So your unit with cleave probably gonna die. He usually isn't going to attack or survive 2 or 3 units attacking him at the same time. However, this guy here, if you surge him, he'll be a 5, which means he can do 5 damage in a circle around him, which will also probably kill everything that he is fighting. So you can usually get some good value out of it. Units with Double Strike can attack 2 different targets on the same turn. They do have to be different targets, meaning they can't attack the same one twice, which means you can't attack the castle twice. That's probably the main reason they did that. However, they can move after their first attack. So that means Rakanoth the Destroyer here can attack, deal 4 damage to the nearest enemy, move and attack something else, and then deal 4 damage to the nearest enemy again. So that's just a good way of being able to either take care of 2 minions, kill a guy, and then attack the castle, or etc. If a unit has a Rampage, whenever they destroy a unit, they can immediately move and attack again. So with the Tyrannical Gorilla here, whenever a unit with 4 or more attack power is in play, you get +2 in Rampage. So that means if he kills a smaller unit, he can then move, kill another smaller unit, and continue doing that until he's run out of units to destroy, or he's dead. But also note that this does not work on buildings, so you can't go ahead and just destroy a bunch of buildings just for free. Freezing a unit will cause them to lose their next action, so basically stun them, but they will also take double damage from all unit attacks, and if a unit is destroyed this way, it will deal 1 damage to 3 random enemies. So this is a great way of dealing extra damage, stalling opponents' cards, etc. And yes, this can be used on the castle for a lot of damage. So Ice Beam here can freeze the castle, and you could have some guy with 4 or 5 attack dealing 8 or 10 damage to the castle if it's frozen. And for our final mechanic, we have Chain Lightning, personally my favorite mechanic. So whenever a unit with Chain Lightning attacks, it will deal damage equal to the Chain Lightning value it has to every connected enemy. This includes units, buildings, and the neutral buildings that spawn at the beginning of the game. So with the Vaskram Marauder here, when he attacks, he'll do 1 damage to every enemy unit that's connected to that unit. And yes, this will work with Death Strike, which I love that combo because it will kill everything it hits with the Chain Lightning. I believe it also works with Lifesteal, but I'm not sure of any other synergies it would have. Moving on to faction identities. So this section is just going to be about explaining every different faction we have here and what they're good at, what they try to do, and why you would run them. So for Vikings, they're the main source of freezing and chain lightning. It is built around frost synergy spells and lightning synergy spells. So some cards that have chain lightning synergies is like Ragnar here. Lightning spells synergize with Thor as he can have them cost less. And the Yarm Giant will get stronger, we'll give a random friendly unit +1 for each frost or lightning spell you've cast this game. So also, it is focused on big units and doing extra attacks, specifically with Tolvar the Relentless here. So overall, it's big units, freezing, chain lightning, and doing a bunch of attacks. Moving on to Crusaders. These mainly focus on healing and swarm. It is focused on getting a bunch of units out and then mass buffing those units to create an army of powerful units. And in terms of healing, it is a lot of big heals or many small heals. Also, it frequently uses Resurrection, as with Angel of Mercy, Divine Intervention, and I think there's one more around here. The Valkyrie kind of counts. And finally, it is great at killing units using destruction rather than damage. So using Holy Avenger and especially Judgment Day, which can destroy your opponent's entire field if they don't have any money left over. So overall, it's great at resurrection, healing, and destruction, and swarm. Now on to pirates. Pirates have a lot of things going on. They are the only source of curses, which I showed you guys one of these sources, but there's a lot more. Skeletal Assassin and Veil of the Assassin. They are also the main ramp faction, which means they try to increase your max gold, give you treasure, just give you regular gold so that you can play your bigger units later in the game. They're also the source of sea monster decks, because they have a lot of those scattered around, and I assume we'll get more support later in the future. I guess really one of the only ones is Bloodthirsty Shark and Poseidon are really the only sea monster synergies for now. And finally, they specialize in stealing cards from an opponent's hand, deck, and graveyard, and then discounting them using the black market. Black market will have your stolen cards cost 3 less, which with Thief you can steal an equipment card from your opponent's deck. You can take a card from your opponent's graveyard with Grave Robbery. There's a lot more methods, especially with Loki, God of Mischief. You can steal 5 cards from your opponent's deck, so that means if you have Black Market on the field, you will get 5 cards that are discounted by 3, which is really strong, especially if you have 2 of them. So overall, it's focused on ramp and stealing cards from your opponent. For Warlocks, they are all about units with charge and fiery burn spells. They are the most aggro-centric faction, while also being one of the most control-centric. This is a dangerous combination of amazing control and being able to whittle down your opponent. They use cheap charge minions such as Baby Dino and Flame Prince to get to your opponent's castle, deal damage, and then also they can buff their units with many of these cards to deal even more damage, and then they can finish you off with their burn spells. So overall, it's very dangerous. and they focus on being able to control units, deal burn damage, and get to your castle fast with their charge units. Ninjas focus mainly on two things. One, using their cheap stealth units to get to the opponent's castle without easily being controlled. And two, returning enemy units to the hand to clear off the defending squares to get more attacks on the castles. Ninjas are also able to deal a lot of aggro damage with Kunai Warrior, with Kunai Master, and Horseback Samurai, Killer Monkey, a lot of them, to get extra damage, sneak your units through while also controlling what they played. They also have a lot of response cards that you can use to control your opponent's plays or protect your own units. So overall, they're focused on being sneaky and dealing extra damage to the opponent's castle. Druids utilize big creatures and healing as their game plan. They have many ways to buff their units and have units with generally strong base stats. So like they have Maul, Survival Instinct, Colossal Growth, even Root Drake, Bestial Rage. They have a lot of buffing and generally strong units, like Forest Giant, I suppose, Tyrannical Gorilla, and all these other units down here. These creatures can get out of hand pretty easily, but removal can usually take care of them. But also be careful, because removal can sometimes get 2-for-1s, as if they just have a card that just destroys your unit without caring about its health. So let's say you used a Colossal Growth on your Northwood Wolf, and they just destroy it without dealing damage. That's a 2-for-1 that they got out of it, as they took care of both of your cards using only one. If you're careful, Druids can create monster boards, but just make sure you don't let them get destroyed easily. They also have a bunch of, I guess their main tree folk is Sunflower here, which is when a friendly target is healed, it gains +1, but or only once ever. Kind of sad, honestly. Used to be stronger. But it is focusing on tree folk, mages, beasts, and just overall getting big units and big boards. As you can probably imagine, undeads focus on the graveyard. They have many grave call units that can activate from the graveyard, and they can also send creatures directly from their deck to the graveyard, and then later revive them, use their grave call abilities, or add them from the graveyard to the hand. Also, they are great at controlling the opponent, using Poison Swamp, Soul Destroy, and a lot of these other control cards. They are a great choice for a control deck. One of their main gimmick cards is Grave Tender, where your graveyard can hold 3 additional units, and you can also pay 5 an unlimited amount of times to add a unit from your graveyard to your hand. So this guy can just recycle your units over and over again, while also allowing your graveyard to hold 3 more units. So overall, it's about recursion from the graveyard, sending things to the graveyard, and controlling your opponent. And finally, we have the neutral class. It doesn't really have an identity at this point in time. It pretty much does a little bit of everything. However, specifically, it does have dwarf support, dinosaur support, and stone walls. That's a deck, but I honestly really like these stone wall decks, so I will not complain that it exists. But basically, you'll include 1 or 2 neutral cards in every deck, but you'll just have to sift through it and see what works. So overall, it's just stuff that you can put in your deck. Now that we're all done with all the gameplay aspects, I'm gonna move on to just the menu. So if you're not interested in this at this point, you can leave. But just sort of all the options you have available to you, I'm gonna go over quickly. So first we have the card track, which is basically just a battle pass. There is a premium side, which is the bottom side, which gets you extra packs and crafting material. And I think costs maybe 1,000 gems, something like that. But the way to progress in that is to do quests. So with quests, we have single player, we have daily quests, you can only have a maximum of 7, and they'll keep your stats from day to day. And there are also seasonal quests that will appear across the season. Now, the XP from these quests will go directly to the card track, so you can get packs, crafting material, gems, all sort of stuff. In the battle screen, you have access to all your decks. You can do practice matches against any of the 7 AI that are each dedicated to their respective faction. And there are also quick matches where you can do ranked or casual matches. And then there's the campaign, which I personally haven't done much of, but I will probably do during the full release of the game. That you can go through. I'm not sure if it'll have any rewards linked to it. It would be cool if it does. You can just mess around with whatever deck you want. Each level has its own gimmick, which can be pretty fun to go through. For creating lobbies, there are personal lobbies that can be available to everybody, or you can have them just available to friends only. You can make a lobby name, add a password, make them max players. But there's 3 types of lobbies you can make. Free play, you can just fight people. Sealed decks, which I'm pretty sure you probably just get pre-made decks. Or drafts, which are personally really fun for me. You go through draft decks with a group of people, and you have a good time. Here in decks, you can access all your decks. There's 2 ways to create new decks. You can search for them. And then you can also access all your cards from this screen, where there is usually an option to uncraft cards that you have multiples of that you don't need, which will give you crafting material. Now obviously I don't have any card packs to open, but you can open up to 50 at a time, and for each pack you may get wild cards that can only make cards of their rarity and only of the set that you get the wild cards from. They do not transfer between sets, so for the core set you get an epic wild card. You can only make epic core set cards. Also, every once in a while, after opening a certain amount of packs, you can get free epic or legendary wild cards up here that can help you expand your collection. For the friends screen up here, you can find a friend through Steam or search by name or email. You can view people that you recently played with, and you can view your blocked players. You can also access the leaderboard, which obviously there's no ranks yet, but once there's a ranked mode created, then you'll be able to view the top players from there. You can access recent replays. You can access your mail to view announcements and get possible rewards, so make sure you're keeping up with your inbox. And finally, make sure that you link your email to your account so you never lose it. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing time playing this game. I'm really excited. I genuinely really love this game. So I hope you have an amazing time. Maybe I'll see you guys while I'm playing. I don't know. Alright, see you guys. Have a great day.